Much like Sonic Adventure 2 Battle being a port of its Dreamcast counterpart, Skies of Arcadia Legends is a port of the original Skies of Arcadia from the Dreamcast. Its development started in 1999 under the name Project Ares with the intent of being on the Sega Saturn, but was changed to be a Dreamcast launch. With a new title, Eternal Arcadia, it was released in Japan on October 5th, 2000, when it was localized for the West. The game's original Japanese name was changed from Eternal Arcadia to Skies of Arcadia. Skies of Arcadia was released in North America on November 13, 2000 on Dreamcast. In October 2001, after Sega became a third-party developer, they announced the release of Skies of Arcadia for the GameCube and PlayStation 2. With a Sega development team called Overworks and US developer Point of View Software working together on the project, the development lasted throughout 2002. In August, the PS2 port was cancelled in favor of focusing on the GameCube port, which has improved graphics, new side missions, and a wanted list to find enemies. For the story, the game is set in the world of Arcadia, where 6 civilizations coexist on floating continents circling 6 colorful moons. The Valuan Empire, led by Empress Theodora, rules the skies and seeks to find the moon crystals in order to resurrect the Gigas and take over the planet. Vise and Ica, who are members of the Blue Rogues, a group of Robin Hood-minded air pirates that fight against the Valuan Empire, team up with Fina, a member of the Silver Civilization, who is sent to recover the moon crystals before the Empire gets their hands on them first. For the gameplay, it's an RPG where the player engages enemies in turn-based battles to earn experience points, making their characters stronger. The overworld is divided into 6 regions, traversed by flying airships in 3D space. Discoveries and hidden locations reward the player with extra benefits. The world map starts out blank, and it is up to the player to chart the map through exploration. The player may also recruit characters they encounter in exploration, allowing them to be placed on the ship's or base's staff, adding extra benefits to exploration or battle. Exploration happens on foot while moored on land masses or warships. The game's gameplay alternates between touring towns and going through dungeons. Cities are invited to purchase equipment and engage with NPCs in order to advance the plot. The dungeons take the style of a maze, with the player leading the protagonist around it to gather useful things in treasure chests while engaging in random combat with adversaries. Getting to the end of the maze usually results in a last boss encounter that must be conquered before departing. The fight system entails maintaining spirit points, magic points, and a multicolored moonstone system. For the reception, Skies of Arcadia Legends gathered positive reviews, although much of it was less than compared to its Dreamcast counterpart. In a review from GameZone, they said, "The main problem with this game is that it feels a little dated, especially when you compare it to Final Fantasy X or other games coming out shortly. Other than that, it is a great game."
The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Master Quest is a remixed version of the original Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time was a massive critical and commercial success on the Nintendo 64 and is considered one of the best video games made. When it was finished completion, Nintendo got started on developing a new challenging version of Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64 DD. Under the title Eura Zelda, its intentions were to add in new content and elements that couldn't be in the original game due to time and storage constraints. However, the 64 DD was a commercial failure in Japan, and Eura Zelda was put on hold. It was then reworked to be a GameCube exclusive. The gameplay of Master Quest is the same as Ocarina of Time, only with a harder difficulty setting. It received mostly positive reviews.
In the land of Hyrule, the wind echoes a legend that tells of a boy who became a man. He traveled to the ends of the earth, challenging the forces of nature, testing the limits of his will. to fulfill his destiny, which is, above all else, to save me.
The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. Rated E for everyone.
The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is the 10th installment in the Legend of Zelda series. Its development started before the release of Majora's Mask. Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka acted as producers, and Majora's Mask director Eiji Aonuma returned to head the project. In Nintendo Space World 2000, a 15-second video of Link fighting Ganondorf was shown to announce that a new Legend of Zelda game was being made. The team behind Wind Waker fell into a creative stump as they didn't know where to take the series. While brainstorming ideas, designer Yoshiki Haruhana presented a cartoonish drawing of a young Link. Soon after, Satoru Takazawa drew up an enemy moblin in the same style. This sparked the team's creativity as they took the cartoon aesthetic to make the graphics a cel-shaded style. Cel shading is a non-photorealistic rendering technique in computer graphics that produces a 3D object or scene that seems flat and resembles the visual style of conventional animation or comic book art. At the 2001 Space World, a demo clip of the game was presented that received polarized reactions. Some were disappointed by its look because it didn't resemble the realistic Zelda of the 2000 trailer. Critics dubbed the game Zelda. Miyamoto also had an issue with the design, feeling that the game wouldn't sell. He told the team that it was not too late to change course to make a realistic Zelda, but the team stuck to their guns to stay with the cel style, and Miyamoto eventually accepted it. At E3 2002, Miyamoto presented a playable demo, which received a more positive reception from the audience. As development continued through late 2002, there were elements that didn't make the final cut, such as Link aging in real time like he did in the Ocarina of Time, an explorable Hyrule, a few dungeons, water boots, and sneaky mechanics. For the story of The Wind Waker, it's set in a parallel timeline following the events of Ocarina of Time, where adult Link travels back in time to his childhood after defeating Ganon. However, a crisis occurs when Ganon returns and Link is not present to stop him, leading to a world where people live on islands surrounded by a great sea. While celebrating his birthday, Link saves a pirate captain named Tetra from a gigantic bird that then kidnaps his sister Aryll. Tetra and her pirate crew helps Link find Aryll in the Forsaken Fortress, where she has been held captive. Link finds her there along with other girls who have been kidnapped, but he is captured by the Helmarock King and thrown into the sea. A talking sailboat named the King of Red Lions saves Link and explains that the bird's master is Ganon. In order to defeat Ganon, Link must find the hero of time's weapon, the Master Sword. Wind Waker's gameplay has the player controlling Link as they travel through the open world of the Great Sea of Hyrule, with 49 islands scattered across it. Within the islands, there are dungeons to explore to solve puzzles, fight enemies and bosses, and find items and weapons. In addition, there are side quests that can be optionally completed. For traveling, Link uses the King of Red Lions to sail through the Great Sea. It features enemies and treasure to find using a grappling hook. There's a map called the Sea Chart that updates every island the player comes across. The Wind Waker, a magical baton that the King of Red Lions gives to Link to control the wind and harness other powers by conducting specific melodies. The most distinguishing melody is the Wind's Requiem, which changes the wind's direction to where the player wishes to sail. The other melodies, like Song of Passing, can change from day to night and vice versa, and Ballad of Gales, which can teleport the player to one of several islands on the Great Sea. The Wind Waker received widespread critical acclaim. Metacritic awarded it 96 out of 100. It gained high scores from gaming magazines like Computer and Video Games, Game Informer, Game Pro, and Nintendo Power. Everything from the graphics, camera control, gameplay, and music was praised. It sold over 4.43 million copies, which was less than the Ocarina of Time. Nintendo of America felt the cel-shaded graphics were the reason for it, as it alienated older Zelda fans. However, as the years passed, fans who were dismissive of the graphics at first now viewed it as one of the best Zelda games, if not one of their favorite Zelda games. It received 2 sequels on the Nintendo DS, Phantom Hourglass, released in 2007, and Spirit Tracks, released in 2009. The variant of the Link character from Wind Waker, named Toon Link, was featured in the following 2D Zelda games: Four Swords Adventures, The Minish Cap, and Triforce Heroes. Toon Link has also been a Super Smash Bros. Character ever since his debut in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. In 2013, an HD remaster was released for the Wii U. Mega Man Network Transmission is a spin-off of the Mega Man Battle Network series that started on the Game Boy Advance. The development started because they wanted to focus their efforts on making Mega Man games for the GameCube. Much like the Wind Waker, Network Transmission uses cel-shaded graphics to match the Mega Man NT Warrior anime, which was airing in Japan during the game's inception. Network Transmission was announced and showcased at the Tokyo Game Show in September 2002. The gameplay of Network Transmission has elements of the action platforming of the original Mega Man series, while integrating real-time strategy and role-playing mechanics. The player controls the character Lon Hikari in the real world, and his online avatar, megaman.exe, on the internet. A custom bar that gradually fills at the top of the screen provides special skills known as battle chips. The player can choose up to 5 battle chips, which come from a folder of chips they've chosen when the bar is full. Once that happens, 10 random chips become accessible. A maximum of 20 chips can be spent for each level trip. Battle chips may be used to call other Navis to assist Mega Man, deliver massive damage to foes, shield and replenish the player's health, and perform certain platforming tasks. Certain chips can even be combined to increase efficiency. Reviews for Mega Man Network Transmission were mixed. Critics believe that the game's difficulty is imbalanced, with the most challenging sections occurring early on, notably during boss battles. The battle chips mechanics were also mixed, as some felt the random shuffling of chips in inventory was frustrating.
Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut is a port of Sonic Adventure. In 1994, Sega Technical Institute began developing Sonic X-treme, an exclusive launch title for the Sega Saturn. With games at the time running ship to a 3D world space, Sonic X-treme would be the first 3D game in the series. However, due to a series of setbacks, including development problems and negative reception from Sega executives, X-treme was canceled in 1996. Without a main Sonic title for the Sega Saturn, many felt that it was one of the major factors why the console became a commercial flop. Granted, there were Sonic games on the Saturn like Sonic R and Sonic Jam, but the former is a racing game developed by a collaboration of Traveler's Tales and Sonic Team. The latter is a compilation of Sonic games from the Genesis. Meanwhile, Sonic Team was making original games like Nights into Dreams. Following that, they got to work on a new Sonic project emphasizing a role-playing style of gameplay and story. Development began in July 1997 with over 100 developers behind the project, with it being an exclusive for the upcoming Sega console, the Dreamcast. Sonic Team traveled to various countries such as Cancun, Guatemala, and Peru to get ideas for the game's locations, taking video footage and hundreds of images. One element that became memorable during their trip was seeing sandboarding in Ica, Peru. This element would become a level for Tails. With a new hardware and detail graphics, the developers redesigned the characters to fit within the modern, cool aesthetic. Sega artist Yuji Yukawa took inspiration from graffiti art, Disney animation, and Looney Tunes when it came to the design of Sonic. He gave him green eyes, longer quills, a darker blue color, and a tall, slimmer build. As the game was focusing on a storytelling aspect, the team created a hub station that would allow for exploration. Another addition was a virtual pet system akin to the A-Life in Nights into Dreams. Sonic Adventure was released on December 23, 1998 in Japan and on September 9, 1999 in North America. It garnered positive feedback and quickly became the Dreamcast's best-selling title. Sega said in 2001 that due to the failure of the Saturn and Dreamcast, it would become a third-party publisher. Following the port of Sonic Adventure 2 to the GameCube, the port of Sonic Adventure 1 features upgraded textures and detailed character models in the graphics, a better frame rate, 60 additional missions, and Metal Sonic, which can be unlocked as a playable character if all 130 emblems are gathered. For the game's plot, Dr. Eggman learns about an entity called Chaos, who aided in defending the Chao and the all-powerful Master Emerald. Sonic and Tails must now embark on an adventure to secure the 7 Chaos Emeralds and learn about the mysterious legend of Chaos as Eggman seeks to use it and the Emeralds for his own gain. The gameplay has the player taking control of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, E102 Gamma, and Big the Cat, each with their own gameplay and story perspective. The player will travel in free-form hub environments called Adventure Hubs, which are access to a character's action stage. Sonic's action stages are fast-paced platformer with spin dash and homing attack as abilities. Tails races against Sonic. Knuckles uses a radar system to find 3 emerald shards. Amy has to solve riddles while avoiding being apprehended by a robot. Gamma has to fire his way through stages, while Big must fish for his beloved frog. The virtual pet element mentioned before takes the form of the Chaos, mystical creatures that play a vital role in the game's story. The player can take care of Chaos in the Chao Garden by feeding them fruit and giving them small animals, which are obtained by fighting enemies in the action stages to improve their abilities. The player's Chao can compete against CPUs in Chao Race as well. Outside of the main campaign, there is Trial Mode, which allows for playing the action stages and minigames like rail shooting, racing, and sandboarding. Mission Mode, which once unlocked, gives access to play completed action stages. Minigame Collection, which is unlockable, has access to past Sonic games like Sonic Drift, Sonic Drift 2, Sonic Chaos, Tails Sky Patrol, Tails Adventure, Sonic Blast, Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble, Sonic Labyrinth, and 8-bit versions of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut received mixed reviews. The camera setup, collision detection, frame rate issues, dialogue, and voice acting all received criticism. While praise was given to the extra features, DX is considered inferior when compared to its Dreamcast counterpart. DX was re-released as a downloadable game with a high-definition upgrade for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 in September 2010.
Greed is good.
Greed makes you do great things.
Greed makes you do great things.
Greed loves old people.
Greed loves old people.
Gold coins and love.
Gold coins and puppies.
It will get you everything.
It'll get you everything.
Even if you have to pile drive your enemy to do
Even
so.
if you have to pile drive your enemies to do so.
Get ready for some real greed. Rated E for everyone. Change you.
Wario World is a spin-off of the Wario series. Wario's first appeared in Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins for the Game Boy. He was created to be the game's villain and served as its final boss. When Wario Land Super Mario Land 3 was released on March 14, 1994 for the Game Boy, he became an anti-hero. This started the Wario Land series. Wario World was shown at E3 2002 as a technical demo. At the next E3 in 2003, another demo was shown with more polish in its gameplay. In the plot of Wario World, Wario is seen lounging in his new castle with his collection of artifacts that he's gathered from his past adventures. One of the treasures, a black gem, transforms the others into monsters and exiles Wario from his palace. He must now gather all of his loot and defeat the black gem. The gameplay is a platformer in the spirit of the Super Mario series, with beat-em-up and puzzle components thrown in for good measure. The player begins in the courtyard of Treasure Square. a hub with 4 distinct worlds: Thrillsville, Sparkle Land, Excitement Central, and Spooktastic World. There are 2 levels in each area. To advance, the player must acquire a set quantity of red diamonds from each level, as well as 8 treasure chests, 8 pieces of golden statues, and defeat the world monster. With the combat, Wario can spin enemies around, throw them, and slam their heads on the ground. Additionally, the player can gather coins from fallen enemies and use them to continue levels even if they die, by purchasing garlic from a vendor, which restores health. While receiving criticism for its brief length, Wario World's gameplay has received generally excellent reviews. It was also a financial success, selling more than 256,000 copies in the US and more than 142,000 copies in Japan.
Did you see my ball?
Right there.
Where? I don't see it, man. I think it's correlated or
There you
something.
go. Point right at it.
Oh, that's not my ball.
Got your name on it. Shermer.
No, that's not my.
Hit your ball.
I can't go in there, man. I won't go in there. No, sir.
Shade jumps, warp pipes, and more. There's lots to avoid in Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. It's only for Nintendo GameCube. Rated E for everyone.
Mario Golf Toadstool Tour is the sequel to Mario Golf from the N64 and the 3rd installment in the Mario Golf series published by Camelot Software Planning. The gameplay acts as a golf game with a Mario theme. A power meter is used to swing the ball through the golf course within a few strokes. Pressing the A button charges the power, and pressing A again releases it. The player calculates power by timing the press of a button until a marker on the power meter stops at the desired point. For manual swing, the player presses the B button and then presses the A or B button to move to the meter marker. The playable characters are Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Koopa, Yoshi, Diddy Kong, Donkey Kong, Bowser, Waluigi, Wario, and Birdo. Shadow Mario, Boo, Petey Piranha, and Bowser Jr. are unlockable characters. Game modes include a tournament mode, in which the player competes for first place in an 18-hole round of golf and best badges on individual holes, character match, which is a player versus CPU match, ring shot, where the player will hit their shots through rings on the course, speed golf, in which a round of golf must be completed the fastest, and doubles, a 2-on-2 game of golf for multiplayer. There are also side games such as Birdie Challenge and Practice Mode. While Mario Golf Toadstool Tour received praise for its aesthetics and courses, it also drew some criticism for not improving upon its predecessor.
Customize your own machine and race through 20 gravity-defying courses at ridiculous speeds. F-Zero GX. The future of racing is in your hands. Only for Nintendo GameCube. Rated T for Teen. GameCube.
F-Zero GX is the 5th installment in the F-Zero series. The first game, F-Zero, was a launch title for the SNES. The first in the subgenre futuristic racing, F-Zero was praised for its graphics, high speed, and difficult gameplay. In addition, it was the debut of Captain Falcon, the series mascot, who was a prominent character in the Super Smash Bros. Series. Following that, the sequel F-Zero X was released for the Nintendo 64 on October 26, 1998, and F-Zero Maximum Velocity for the Game Boy Advance was released on June 11, 2001. The development of GX started on February 18, 2002, when Nintendo made an announcement for Triforce. an arcade system board created by a collaboration between Nintendo, Namco, and Sega, who were building a relationship with Nintendo around this time. The purpose of Triforce was to create a less expensive development environment for the high-cost arcade sector and use GameCube technology to make arcade games. In March 2002, Amusement Vision and Nintendo started to work together to produce F-Zero video games for the Triforce and GameCube. Shigeru Miyamoto and Toshiro Nagoshi, the creator of Super Monkey Ball, served as producers. GX would have featured a multiplayer mode with an online connection, but it was dropped because the development team wanted to focus more on the single-player elements. In addition, the engine for GX is an enhanced version of the first Super Monkey Ball. The gameplay for F-Zero GX has the player racing 29 competitors in an interplanetary Grand Prix on plasma-powered machines. Each machine has a distinct handling style, as well as performance and durability characteristics that are impacted by weight, grip, and boost, and are classified from A to E, best to worst. The user can alter a vehicle's balance between maximum acceleration and maximum top speed before a race. An energy meter acts as the machine's health and is diminished by mishaps or assaults from rival competitors. By entering a pit area, the machine's energy will be regained. After completing the first lap of a race, the meter can be used as boost power. In the main racing mode, Grand Prix, the player competes in races against opponents over 3 laps of each track. Each of the 4 cups, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and Diamond, has 5 tracks, and there are 4 difficulty settings: Novice, Standard, Expert, and Master. The multiplayer mode allows 2 to 4 players to compete against one another. Time Attack allows the user to select any track and complete it in a specified amount of time. In customization mode, there is F-Zero Shop, Garage, and Emblem Editor. The F-Zero Shop is where the player can buy characters, custom machine parts, staff ghost data, and chapters for the story mode. The Garage allows for the customization of an original machine in terms of its body, cockpit, and booster. All of these are rated on a scale from A to E. Emblem Editor lets the player create emblems for their machine. Story mode has the player controlling Captain Falcon in 9 chapters of various racing situations. Practice mode allows for practicing on whatever courses the player chooses. The arcade cabinet counterpart of GX, F-Zero AX, has the same gameplay and a special bonus feature. By having a GameCube memory card with saved data for GX and placing it in the slot of AX will unlock extra tracks, characters, and machines to be played on GX. F-Zero GX was widely acclaimed. It was named Best Racing Game of 2003 by IGN, Best GameCube Driving Game of 2003 by GameSpot, nominated for Console Racing Game of the Year at the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences 7th Annual Interactive Achievements Award, and the 92nd best game available on Nintendo platforms according to official Nintendo magazine.
PN03, or Product Number 3, is another original IP made by Capcom as part of the Capcom 5. With Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami acting as director, his goal was to make a game that evoked the same feelings as classic Nintendo games. Within development, the original concept was a war game with robots. However, Mikami was unsatisfied with this direction and reworked the project as a third-person shooter. Early versions had the main character Vanessa using guns, but the developers couldn't complete the animation graphics in time for the game's release, so they instead designed the character to shoot out energy bolts. The gameplay has the player controlling Vanessa Zed Schneider, a freelance mercenary working on colonized planets. Using her Aegis suits, she can fire energy bolts from her hands and perform powerful attacks called energy drives. They can fire homing attacks and energy beams, allowing temporary invulnerability. After finishing a level, the player can spend points from defeating enemies to purchase Aegis suits, suit upgrades, energy drives, and level continues. Trial missions can be played later in the game to earn more points for upgrades. Reviews for PN03 were both positive and mixed. Critics praised the unique style and controls, but felt the gameplay was shallow and repetitive, with limited plot and character development. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg is a new game developed by Sonic Team. The president of Sonic Team, Yuji Naka, who is the producer of the game, said in an interview with IGN on why eggs were chosen as the focus of the game. He said, quote, "If you think about it, most action games up until now have been about one character running around in the world doing everything. I wanted a different style of action we could focus on. With eggs, we felt that there is this obligation you have for caring for the egg and joy you get from hatching it. Initially, we tried some different experiments with oblong-shaped eggs, but found that too limiting for the player. Also, because you don't know what's going to come out of eggs, it gives you this feeling of anticipation as you play." Unquote. For the story, the fantasy world of Morningland, populated by anthropomorphic chickens, has been attacked by Dark Raven and his army of crows, creating an eternal darkness across the land. In the human world, Billy Hatcher and his friends save a baby chicken from a crow, leading them to be transported to Morningland. A deity that watches over Morningland, named Minifuni, informs Billy that the crows are setting their sights on conquering the human world next. To stop them and free Morningland, Billy is equipped with a legendary chicken suit and must free the 6 chicken elders who are imprisoned in golden eggs by the crows. The gameplay is a 3D platformer where the player controls Billy as he grows and hatches eggs. There are 72 eggs to hatch, and they grow over time as the player rolls them around and uses them to fight enemies, perform techniques like egg dunking, slamming, dashing, and shooting. The game allows 1 egg at a time, and they can grow as the player collects fruit. Once the egg reaches a maximum size, Billy will perform a rooster call, and the egg will release a power-up, or an animal helper with special abilities that can aid the player. The eggs can be damaged by enemies and the environment. If an egg takes enough damage, it will be destroyed. They will respawn where the player originally found them. The campaign is organized into 7 worlds, each representing an area of Morningland, and has 8 missions. Each quest grants an emblem of courage that is needed to defeat Dark Raven. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg gathered mixed to average reviews, with critics praising the graphics and gameplay, but being quite critical of the camera and simple plot.
Lights, camera, beautiful! Ordinary Dude Joe is sucked into an action movie and transformed into a super cool celluloid hero. Welcome to the way out world of Viewtiful Joe. Use your awesome VFX power to obliterate evildoers. Zoom in, slow, max speed. What challenges await him? Will he have the strength to save the world? Don't miss a single frame of Viewtiful Joe. Rated T for teen. Tension to go-go, baby. Ha ha ha!
Viewtiful Joe was developed by Capcom Production Studio 4. It was announced in late 2002 as one of the Capcom 5, a lineup of then 5 upcoming GameCube titles that would be exclusive to the system. Nintendo and Capcom had a good working connection because of the success of the Mega Man series. Capcom designer Hideki Kiyama, who worked on Resident Evil, wanted Viewtiful Joe to emulate American comic books and Japanese tokusatsu, a genre that heavily relies on practical special effects, with examples like Ultraman and Super Sentai, the latter in which Western audiences know as Power Rangers. The development process began with 6 individuals working on a 12-month deadline. As time went on, more people joined the team, and it ultimately took 21 months to make. For the story, the game's central character, Joe, along with his girlfriend Sylvia, go to see a tokusatsu film starring the superhero Captain Blue. The film's villain grabs Sylvia out of the film and drags her into movie land. Joe enters the film, where he encounters Captain Blue, who gives him his V-Watch, which allows Joe to turn into a superhero. He now must rescue Sylvia and defeat the villainous organization called Jado. The gameplay is a side-scrolling beat-em-up where the player controls Joe to fight enemies with combat and the beautiful effects powers. The first VFX power is Slow, which slows time, increasing the potency of strikes, improving Joe's reflexes, and allowing assaults to be deflected. The second VFX power, Mach Speed, allows Joe to move quicker, resulting in several after images of him when he unleashes a volley of attacks on all enemies on the screen. It can also envelop Joe in a temporary heat shield, making him impervious to flame attacks and igniting opponents when hit. The final VFX power, Zoom In, creates a close-up of Joe, amplifying his attacks, providing him with a set of additional attacks, and paralyzing any weaker foes. Any two of the VFX powers can be combined, like Mach Speed and Zoom, Slow and Zoom, or Slow and Mach Speed. V-Points, which can be collected throughout the levels, can be used to purchase upgrades like extra lives and a longer life meter, as well as attacks that utilize a boomerang and bombs. Reviews for Viewtiful Joe were strongly positive. Game Informer praised the game as a completely original and highly entertaining work of art. The gaming website IGN named it GameCube Game of the Year and Best Action Game of 2003. The success of Viewtiful Joe led to it getting a PlayStation 2 port on August 24, 2004. That same year, the sequel, Viewtiful Joe 2, was released for GameCube and PlayStation 2 respectively. Two spin-offs, Viewtiful Joe Red Hot Rumble for the PSP and GameCube, and Viewtiful Joe Double Trouble for the Nintendo DS, were released the following years. And in 2006, an anime series adaptation was screened on Kids WB in the United States.
If you can't beat 'em, eat 'em. Chew up the competition with Kirby as he jets across 20 gap-busting race courses in Kirby Air Ride.
Only on Nintendo GameCube. Rated E for everyone.
Kirby Air Ride is a spin-off of the Kirby series, created by Masahiro Sakurai, the same man behind the Super Smash Bros. Series. It all started with Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy, with the next following games making their way onto the Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo 64. Air Ride was in development in the early days of the Nintendo 64, under the title Kirby Bowl 64. During the Shoshinkai Show in 1995, two playable Kirby Bowl demos were shown, a single-player demo with Kirby racing on an obstacle course, and a multiplayer demo, with players knocking off each other on a playing field. There were many changes to the direction of the game during its long development. At E3 1996, Nintendo released a new trailer for the product. Now titled Kirby Air Ride, it shows Kirby riding a warp star on a field. Eventually, the project was cancelled, and Shigeru Miyamoto, who was a producer for Air Ride, said in a 1998 interview that it is now being reworked so Nintendo can focus on finalizing 1080 snowboarding. Air Ride reappeared in March 2003 at the annual DICE Summit in Las Vegas as a brief video teaser for the GameCube. Due to its subpar visuals and slow pace, it garnered a terrible reaction. However, when a playable demo was shown at E3 that year, it earned a much more favorable response. Shortly after the game's release, Sakurai resigned from his position at HAL Laboratory, as he was tired of the constant pressure from the industry to keep creating sequels. This made Air Ride the last game he directed. The gameplay is different from other racing games because acceleration and forward movement are automatic. The control stick is for steering, and the A button is for braking, charging for a boost, and sucking up enemies and absorbing their powers. The modes in the game are Air Ride, Top Ride, and City Trial. Air Ride is the main racing mode, where the player chooses a racing machine, a course, and races against other players or 3 CPUs. There are 2 ways to play Air Ride: Laps and Time Attack. Laps allows the player to set whatever number of laps for the course, from 1 to 99. In Time mode, players compete against one another for a specified amount of time. Top Ride is an overhead perspective race where players run through smaller courses. Finally, the fan favorite mode, City Trial. In this mode, players will navigate through a city while gathering various upgrade items like boosts, top speeds, charges, and offense and defensive power-ups. After a selected time has expired, the players will participate in a stadium event, which can vary to air glider, single race, drag ride, target flight, high jump, Kirby Melee, versus King Dedede, and Destruction Derby. Kirby Air Ride received mixed reviews from critics. Praise was given to the music and the city trial mode, but the gameplay was criticized for feeling overly simplistic. It sold 750,000 copies in the United States and 422,000 in Japan. Despite its mixed reception, Kirby Air Ride has built a cult following since its release.
Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3 Rebel Strike is the third and final installment of the Star Wars Rogue Squadron games made by Factor 5. The gameplay has the player engaging in scenes from the original Star Wars trilogy as they play missions on foot or ground vehicles like the X-Wing and AT-ST. There are also two multiplayer modes, Co-op and Versus. Players can replay missions from Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader in split-screen mode. Versus includes dogfight and survival, and players can pilot X-Wings, A-Wings, TIE Fighters, and Darth Vader's TIE Advanced. The game received positive reviews from game critics, while some had issues with how clunky the on-foot missions are and that there's not much in terms of refinement.
Why have you finally decided to run? Sir, are you afraid of the gorilla?
Think you stand a chance against the big boys?
Do you have a girlfriend?
Will your brother be on your team?
Sir, do you really think you can win?
I think what we're all looking for is, do you have a stance on anything?
Forget politics. Join the party with Mario Party 5. Over 60 new mini-games and 3D boards make this party all fun and no politics. Ready for everyone. GameCube.
Mario Party 5 is the fifth title in the Mario Party series and the second Mario Party installment on the GameCube. In Party mode, 4 players are on a game board where they take turns rolling a dice block 1 to 10, leading to how many spaces they'll move on the board. After the players have taken their turns, a random minigame will follow, and the winner will receive coins. The coins can be used to purchase items, pass through gates, use Boo Ghosts to take coins from other players, play the lottery to win coins or items, and purchase stars. The player with the most stars wins. There are 8 playable characters: Mario, Luigi, Toad, Boo, Koopa Kid, Peach, Daisy, Waluigi, Wario, and Yoshi. There are a total of 77 mini-games separated into 9 categories: Battle, Duel, Bowser, DK, Story, 4-player, 1 vs 3, 2 vs 2, and Bonus. We'll go over a handful of them. Coney Island has players catching falling ice cream scoops. Ground Pound Down. The objective is to ground pound through rock blocks to reach the bottom of the cave. Leaf Leap. Players must jump from leaf to leaf to climb the highest on a beanstalk. Pushy Penguins. Players must avoid penguins that will push them into the water. Dinger Derby. A pitching machine throws 30 baseballs to each player. Whoever has the most hits wins. Flatiator. The solo player is on a large ball and must squash the other players. Clock Stoppers. To match the time, players must move both hands on their clocks. Bus Buffer. Players will have to clean off paint from a bus. And Button Mashers. 2 players will have to hold blocks by tapping the buttons the blocks have. Critics gave Mario Party 5 mostly mixed to positive reviews. It became the 10th best-selling game for the GameCube, with 2.17 million copies sold.
Nice, tight.
For a limited time, if you buy a Nintendo GameCube for $99.99, you'll get a bonus disc with 4 classic Zelda games free.
The Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition is a compilation of several installments in the series. On November 17th, Nintendo launched a promotion for anyone who bought a $99 GameCube to get the Collector's Edition for free. The games included in the Collector's Edition are The Legend of Zelda, The Adventure of Link, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. For the extra editions, there's a 20-minute playable demo of The Wind Waker, along with a sneak peek preview of the game, and a retrospective video of the Legend of Zelda series.
Tag Team, or else. Mario Kart Double Dash. Drive, throw stuff, switch. Only for Nintendo GameCube. Rated E for everyone. GameCube.
Mario Kart Double Dash is the 4th installment in the Mario Kart series. It began with Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, followed by Mario Kart 64 on the Nintendo 64, and Mario Kart Super Circuit on the Game Boy Advance. Double Dash was announced in E3 2001 with a 7-second clip showing Mario and Luigi driving on a 3D mapped surface. In its development, the team felt the concept of 2 riders sharing a kart would be different from other Mario Kart games. It was decided to make the gameplay simple for it to be appealing. For the graphics, it heavily utilized 3D graphics as opposed to Mario Kart 64, which used pre-rendered sprites. The gameplay has the player racing against other opponents on different courses. During races, the player can pick up item boxes that will randomly grant an item for use. The items are mushroom and triple mushrooms, which grant speed boosts. Banana peels and faux item boxes can make an opponent spin out of control. Red and green shells can be thrown at an opponent. The spiky blue shell can target the lead cart. Lightning Bolt makes opponents small, and the star item grants the player brief invincibility and a speed boost. There are 20 characters divided into 10 pairs in which the player can choose any way they see fit, and they have their own special items. Mario and Luigi have fireballs. Peach and Daisy have hearts, which can absorb an opponent's item and they can use it. Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong have giant bananas. Bowser and Bowser Jr. have Bowser shells. Wario and Waluigi have bombs. Yoshi and Birdo have eggs, which can hone on the lead opponent and drop random items. Koopa Troopa and Koopa Paratroopa have triple red and green shells. Baby Mario and Baby Luigi have chain chomps. Petey Piranha and King Boo can use all the characters' unique items. Toad and Toadette have golden mushrooms that give an unlimited amount of speed boost for a brief period. The last 2 character pairings can be unlocked. There are 4 game modes: Grand Prix, Time Trial, Versus, and Battle. In Grand Prix, the player can choose between 3 different engine classes: 50cc, 100cc, and 150cc. Mirror Mode, which must be unlocked, is the final engine class. Mushroom, Flower, Star, and Special are the 4 cups available in the Grand Prix mode. The tracks for the Mushroom Cup are Luigi Circuit, Peach Beach, Baby Park, and Dry Desert. Flower Cup's tracks are Mushroom Bridge, Mario Circuit, Daisy Cruiser, and Waluigi Stadium. Sherbet Land, Mushroom City, Yoshi Circuit, and DK Mountain are the tracks found in the Star Cup. And finally, Special Cup, which the player can unlock by finishing 100cc Star Cup, have Wario Coliseum, Dino Jungle, Bowser's Castle, and Rainbow Road. There is a 5th cup that can be unlocked called the All-Star Cup that combines all of the tracks. Time Trial allows the player to complete any of the 16 courses in the shortest amount of time possible, with the best time preserved as a ghost, a carbon copy of the player's performance that they must compete against in subsequent runs. In Versus, the player can choose either Grand Prix or Battle. Battle Mode has 3 sub-modes: Balloon Battle, Shine Theft, and Ba-Bomb Blast. Shine Theft is where players must fight to keep the Shine Sprite. Balloon Battle has players trying to pop each other's balloons. Finally, Ba-Bomb Blast. The players are given 5 stars, and each item box contains Ba-Bombs, with the goal to blow each other up. The last player standing wins. Mario Kart Double Dash received positive reviews from critics and fans alike for the 3D graphics, character and item roster, and gameplay. The sales for it went up to 6.96 million copies, making Double Dash the second best-selling GameCube game. There was also a special edition of Double Dash which featured a bonus disc containing playable demos for Mario Party 5, Sonic Heroes, F-Zero GX, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3 Rebel Strike. In addition, there are trailers for Kirby Air Ride and the TV series Kirby Right Back At Ya, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, Pokemon Coliseum, 1080 Avalanche, Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup, NBA Live 2004, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Pokemon Channel is a Pokemon spin-off made by Umbrella, a Nintendo subsidiary. It was created to be a spiritual sequel to Hey You, Pikachu, and to promote the Nintendo e-reader attachment device for the Game Boy Advance. The gameplay of Pokemon Channel is a digital pet simulation. The player and Pikachu would watch various channels of a television network created by the Pokemon professor, Professor Oak. For the channels, there's Pokemon Newsflash, where Psyduck delivers the news while Meowth reports from the scene. Shop and Squirtle is a shopping channel that acts as a shop the player can use to buy items. Slowpoke's Weather Report has Slowpoke giving a weather forecast. Professor Oak's report is where the game can be saved. And Quiz Wobbuffet, a quiz show hosted by Wobbuffet that the player can participate in to win money. Much like with Animal Crossing, Pokemon Channel operates on the GameCube's internal clock system, so each day in real time, a new channel can be accessed. Outside of watching channels with Pikachu, the player can travel to areas of Mintail Town where Pikachu can interact with wild Pokemon. Pokemon Channel received mixed reviews. Game critics felt that because most of the gameplay involves watching TV with Pikachu, it feels lacking in interaction. Game Rankings scored it 51%, and Metacritic gave it 55%.
It's coming. Race down avalanches, rock slides, and more in 1080 Avalanche. This time, the mountain hits back. Rated everyone.
.1080 Avalanche is the sequel to 1080 Snowboarding on the Nintendo 64. There are 6 different game modes: Match Racing, Trick Attack, Gate Challenge, Time Trial, Multiplayer, and Online Local Area Network Multiplayer. The main racing mode is Match Race, which has 4 difficulty settings: Novice, Hard, Expert, and Extreme. The Novice levels have 4 stages, Hard has 5, and Expert has 6. The player starts off first with Novice and can unlock Extreme with progress. For each race, the player is given 3 tickets that serve as lives. If a race is lost, just 1 ticket will be taken. Once they're all gone, the game is over. The races themselves operate with the player racing against a CPU. The playable characters have their own stats that contribute to the style of gameplay. Every final event in the match race requires the player to outrun an avalanche that begins midway through the run or at the start. In Trick Attack, the goal is to perform tricks to earn points before time runs out. Time Trial is a time completion mode that has coins that can be used to unlock secret boards. Gate Challenge is where the player must go through gates and earn points to gain more unlockable content. Multiplayer allows 4 players to compete with one another, and Local Area Network Multiplayer allows for online play. 1080 Avalanche received mostly positive reviews from critics, with IGN giving it a 7.3 out of 10 score, and Game Rankings ranking it 75 out of 100.